Mara stock, bullish or bearish? That's what I want to cover today because things are a little bit seesawing around with the crypto market right now. You got stuff like this. You got like stuff like tariffs, uh, flowing in and out, causing fear, and then it's just a back and forth with it. We have the Bitcoin reserve got a little bit more confidence announced on it. So really, it's like, what can we be looking at? There's so much mixed news. Like, what are we looking at, right? Because we got to clear things up. We got to clear things up because we can't just be seesawing back and forth, not having a clear structure, and just being lost, right? So let's try to clear things up, or let's try to clear things up to get a better understanding of what Mara can do. And you can already tell from the last update video I made for this stock, we hit that resistance, right? I kept saying we can easily pump up as Bitcoin rallied on Sunday. I'm like, I wouldn't be surprised if this stock pumps up and tests that 120 moving average. That 120-day moving average on the hourly charts is very important to me because that's the divider between finally if we're going to be going back above this long term, if it can load this long term consolidation, or not consolidation, so this long term support line. And when are we going to finally trade above that? Because tariff fears primarily caused this aggressive sell off. We've seen it in Bitcoin, we've seen it in MSTR, we've seen it across the stock market. We were doing great, and we were respecting this support line, and then the fear began, and we started dropping. It was, first of all, it was a Bybit hack, and then on top of that, we had the tariffs, and then that kept dropping and dropping and trying to mess up the structure we were already looking at. And now things are starting to clear up a little bit. We have more tariff fear. I think tomorrow, Tuesday, the Mexico Canadian tariffs start. I don't know if the 25% EU one started yet. I'm not sure, but they said they're open for negotiations. And then I think on early April, something like that, there's some farm goods tariffs that are gonna be starting off as well. So understanding all that and understanding the little bit of FOMO that's being created with the Bitcoin reserve, right? What can we be looking forward, right? So we're gonna take a look at Bitcoin first, so we can get a better understanding of what's going on and how that can potentially influence Mara. Because we gotta clear things up, guys. We gotta clear things up because it's just this back and forth with all this fear and ruining structures and so much uncertainty. We really got to get a good understanding of what's going on, right? So first of all, let's go over the rally, right? So over the weekend, I created this yellow fib extension area as a resistance, right? This area back here, this one got invalidated due to some more tariff fears that came out today. It ruined the structure. So at first, actually, before I delete it, so I created that resistance area in yellow. It's overlapping imbalance areas back here that acted as a strong magnet, maxed out the extension area, the resistance area. I'm gonna say the yellow, it maxed it out perfectly. It couldn't hold above it. Strong resistance, right? Perfect, amazing. So then I said, all right, well now we can either just find the momentum and start shooting up higher, or ideally we come down, trend down towards this imbalance area right here, this one that stretched out a little bit more to the right. We can come down into this area. Ideally this will create a better uptrend structure, a bit of a healthier correction as we continue to go up higher, make it more sustainable, right? And then I also drew a support line saying that we can come down to this imbalance area, maybe trade in it for a moment, and then use it as support and go up higher. But it got ruined with more tariff fears. It's just like back, these tariffs keep hitting us back and back and back, right? So I can't wait for these tariffs to like settle, the fear to go away, so we can go back to the a more reasonable structure that doesn't have all this like random fluctuations. But we came down to this area. as ideally would be expected. We came down into it, and then of course the fear, and then it broke and it came back down. If we found support here, we would have gone in higher and tried to max out this next resistance area in green, but that got ruined. This trend line got ruined. So now, uh, we never had a successful hold inside this imbalance area down here. I've said this before over the weekend too, but we have a wick from this hourly candle right here, that broke into it, but it didn't close. It ended up rallying and it closed up here. So we never really filled this completely. So now we have a second opportunity to go off of that, right? So what we have is a more successful test, and we finally have a candle that closed within this imbalance area down here, which is also a retracement for this move up. And then at the same time, we're starting to sort of use it as support. And the RSI is also showing bottomed out, discounted measurements on the current hourly candle chart is showing that it's well oversold, and it's starting to try to build up some momentum and to push its way back up. At the same time, again, we're consolidating here. We successfully actually closed inside this imbalance area right here, and now we're trying to hold above it, right? So here's how this translates into tomorrow now, right? I believe a lot of this move down will translate into tomorrow. If it hasn't already in the aftermarket hours, it should. If we stay in this level, it should pull back down. I'm gonna show you guys what that can potentially look like. But let's just say what can we expect, right? Let's say, okay, if we stay down here and maybe we trend a little bit lower, max out the RSI down a little bit more, we trend a little bit lower and try to push on to the lower boundaries of this blue retracement area down here, right? So let's say that happens. Well, and I'm gonna get into that in a moment with Mara. And then if we start to use it as support and we start going up higher, what can we be looking for? Well, first of all, um, if we just take this whole move down, which was quite aggressive, we'll do on the extreme and we'll do the top of the wick, and then we bring it all the way down into this area, and we'll make this we'll make this a different color to distinguish it a little bit better. We'll do like an orange color. So the thing is now, right? If we break up higher, before we could potentially come up here, maybe try to find some consolidation within this area, we have to understand that we have the 120 moving average right here, which tends to act as a strong resistance. It has in the past, and it also acts as a strong support, as you can see right here. So the thing is, and actually coincidentally, when the reserve announcement happened, we were right. We used it perfectly. But the thing is, in order to build enough momentum to push up higher into this area, so then we can consolidate further, building up more momentum to try to retest this high, and then finally break up higher to go back into the 100Ks. That 120 moving average is a strong resistance. It really, really is, in my opinion. And what we have to keep an eye out is if that resistance holds, we will find out very quick. I don't think it's going to consolidate at it. It'll happen very quickly. But if we can successfully break over that, we can go up higher. Now, if we do go lower, though, the thing is, right, we don't just have to find support down here into this area. We can maybe come down a little bit and consolidate a little bit more. But if there's more tariff fears that kind of get confirmed, some more tariff stuff confirmed throughout this first week of March, we can potentially see the price come back down and max out this red area once again. So now let's translate that into MAR, right? I'm not being overall, I'm going to be very clear though ahead of time. I am not bearish on Bitcoin and I'm not bearish on Mara because we are very, very much discounted on both of these assets, and these levels cannot be sustained, in my opinion, for such a long period of time because demand keeps outweighing the Bitcoin supply, and there is a lot of buying happening in the background, and these deep value areas just don't last that long. We will probably be trading a little bit higher, or at least like holding this area up here if it wasn't for tariff news. And tariff news, there's gonna be negotiations happening soon. Like all that always ends up being taken care of, and it doesn't last forever. So understanding that these tariff negative issues, the way they're negatively affecting these risk on assets, is it's just not going to be around for that long, right? It's something that always gets negotiated, and then eventually fear just goes away. Even before, after negotiations, doesn't matter. Fear always ends up fading away as we focus on the future, as we get more like jobs, inflation data, more Fed meetings, and the longer we stay in the discounted levels, the harder we can pump up. And I don't think it's gonna last very long. So even if we do come down, pulling Bitcoin down and pulling Mara down more, in my opinion, it's going to just recover very quickly and start retesting different areas. And on top of that, we have super clear imbalance in this area. So we have another super clear, strong imbalance right here. So right there, we have another one down here. So these areas tend to act as a magnet and they tend to hold very, very well. So we have two right here. So we can use these as potential resistance too. So this is the dividing factor. We can come up a little bit, maybe consolidate a little bit more, try to see if we can push past the 120 moving average. And then again, this retracement area in orange very clearly overlaps like right in the middle of this imbalance area right here. So it's a very strong resistance too. This one being a little bit weaker because it could easily get push above it because the 120 is above it, and it's just something that's it's just not super strong in my opinion, right? But right now, right, we still have downward pressure. We're still moving down a little bit. We'll see if we can hold enough to build momentum and push up higher. But we can easily not just see this blue area maxed out, but if these tariff fears consist, causing a lot more fear in whales, institutions, and Wall Street, all these big guys that really move Bitcoin, we can easily see the red being maxed out once again and try to retest that 77K CME level, right? So the way this, and again, if we were to come down, I don't think it's gonna last very long, and it'll be a very strong like chance to accumulate or open up new positions if you haven't already. In my opinion, it's a very strong it's a very strong price. Low 80s and even below 80, I don't think it's gonna last very long. So overall, I'm very bullish because the short term weakness, it won't last long. It was just a little bit of a hiccup before we can start pushing up higher, or we can push up higher right away. So like I don't even consider the time duration of a dip to be significant. Enough on that though. So the way this influences Mar, right, is we perfectly came up to the 120 moving average and found resistance, right? Now within this move, we're not gonna worry too much about a lot of this move down because that's just noise. It's just a lot of fear that was happening. It's just noise, right? So what this move up, what we've seen so far, what it's telling us is, well, as of right now, we are seeing some higher highs forming. We're seeing higher lows forming too. The dip didn't really bring down the price too much. It's not telling me what it is after hours. Yeah, no, I can't tell what it is after hours. Let me see if I can look it up real quick. After hours, it's down to 1362. So 1362. Oh, it's pretty much flat after hours actually. So it's just down a little bit, but pretty much flat. So we're still at this higher high, higher low forming, right? Now, what weakness can we see to potentially consider a move down instead of a move up? Well, it just comes down to Bitcoin at this point. The correlation on Mars is just aggressively increasing and becoming more concrete with Bitcoin because Mara is increasing their Bitcoin holdings. They are holding onto a lot of Bitcoin they mine, and they're also acquiring Bitcoin in the spot market. It's researchable. You guys can look that up. But so the correlation keeps getting a little bit stronger, especially at these discounted levels. Where right now, all these risk-on assets are being very much closely aligning with their characteristics, right? So if Bitcoin, it just depends on Bitcoin. If Bitcoin were to come down and do that test, right, what we can see is Mara very easily because it's very volatile and there's a lot of volume in this stock, like all the time. Basically, we can easily see it come down and retest. We have a gap right here that was successfully tested and pushed up higher, and then we have another one that was created here, which got tested right here, and it pushed up higher, right? So we can easily see this come down, retest this gap, and try to make a second bottom. If Bitcoin does stretch lower to that CME gap at like 77K due to fear, whatever, it just brings it down. We can easily see Mara start testing this range right here, this sub $12 range. And again, I don't think that will last very long if that were to happen. The bearish side is still bullish because it's an aggressive drop. But again, I don't think we'll see a lot of fluctuations, and we'll see this easily pump up and go back to above $13 as Bitcoin comes down and then quickly recovers, because it's just not sustainable at those discounted levels. It's not sustainable. So with that being said, right, if we do come down, depending on how aggressive down we can go, we can either be somewhere in the high 12s or even at the lowest point come down to the 11s. And if we were to instead Bitcoin find support at that current level it's at 83K, where we have that imbalance where it's using it as a support. And then actually, let me see if I can show you guys this a little bit better. Yeah, so it's using the imbalance of support, the retracement area too. So if this does hold, what I am expecting personally, and if it were to hold and come back up to say to retest this imbalance right here where the retracement is in orange, rather it uses as a resistance or just sits there and consolidates, this can easily influence Mara to come back up and retest that 120 moving average. That's what it comes down to, is Bitcoin being able to successfully break through that imbalance, which is right now going to be a strong support in my opinion, where the retracement is, the retracement zone. And then with Mara, that's equivalent to basically the 120 moving average. And if we do on an hourly candle break above it, even with that same range in Bitcoin, this long-term support, which is not going to be a resistance, will be retested too. So this area right here, if we can successfully break over 15 and hold it, if Bitcoin does use the current level of support, then we can try to see if we can have enough momentum to break past this. Even if an hourly or even 2-hour candles break above this area, we want to see them close above it and actually hold it. If not, I'm expecting the price to come down and continue something like this, where it's like doing something like this. So it's gone like this, like this, like this, like this, like this, like this. It has to come up, break past that 120, try to hold around that imbalance area to try to create more momentum. This will of course be highly influenced by Bitcoin, but if Bitcoin cannot break past that imbalance area in the orange retracement area and it actually uses as resistance, then we can come back down, and then at that point what we're looking for is if Bitcoin were to, like, let's say, come up into this area, we want to see it come down and try to use that 120 as support. If it can successfully use the 120 as support, then what we can look at is Mara using, it's not going to be super clear, but there's somewhat of a support kind of like in this range right here. So it can come down, try to use that support equivalent to the Bitcoin 120 moving average, and then finally try to see if you can break above this support, which is a resistance now. But of course, this doesn't just depend on Bitcoin, but it highly depends on the news. I have no idea if we're going to see any more tariff news this week besides tomorrow's tariffs actually like taking place. But even if they do take place, like, which they most likely will, because it's scheduled for it, maybe soon after or like the day after, something like that, we can see maybe those countries saying like they're open for negotiations or they're like trying to work something out. So then that kind of creates a little bit more like hope in the market, and then maybe we'll see that like start to form a higher low for Bitcoin from that lowest point, like at 88,000, right? No, sorry, like 70. If I think the bottom was 78,000, the last major bottom. So then at that point we can see, Mara try to represent that by going up higher. If we do see just positive news coming out, maybe try to reverse the tariffs or negotiations. But again, yeah, it's a big question mark if we're gonna see any new tariff news, any worsening of tariffs and stuff like that. And then even if we don't see any more tariff news, there's still the risk of just fear due to inflation that the tariffs could cause. And this is something that we just have to wait and see, and we have to keep an eye on the structures. But regardless, like Mara below 15, in my opinion, it's amazing. It's amazing. And then another thing is Bitcoin, like below 90K is incredible. So regardless, even if we do see that short term weakness, like it won't last that long. We can see continued fear for the whole month of March. We can easily see that a consolidation for like the whole month because of fear, and then eventually everything starts fading away. We start going back to like you know risk off bullishness. Um, so like regardless, even if we go low, like I don't think it's gonna last very long, to be honest. And regardless at these prices, like even if there is more weakness, it's just it won't last long. It's just these are amazing prices. If you're looking out, later into 2025, I think we're gonna have this all in the past soon enough. Short term weakness, although I do think is much more likely than us to go up higher. I do believe it's very likely that Bitcoin will show continued weakness overnight because you can see we're still seeing enough volume pushing the price lower. With this candle couldn't kind of break past this one, so we're still seeing some bearishness, and I do believe the price can trickle down more and find support somewhere within this area. It's very, very much likely. So I wouldn't be surprised if Mara going into tomorrow and then for the next couple of days comes down and breaks below $13. I do think that's very, very, very much possible. But overall, I'm bullish on it. Looking at the bigger picture, because these short-term noise is just, I think a lot of this short-term noise causing this fear is super, super incredible buying opportunities, in my opinion. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.